SportsNet's Halford and Brough podcast brings to light multiple critical updates concerning big Vancouver names with injury and contract reports alike. And two major prospects are rapidly progressing, catching more than just the eyes of the Canucks. We're going to be breaking down all of that in this episode of Canucks Digest. But first, if you're a part of the nearly 73% that aren't subscribed, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you can stay up to date on all the Vancouver Canucks news. And we're still going to have videos coming to you guys throughout this Four Nations face-off, so stay tuned for that. Without hopping to the first topic of the day, which is injury and contract updates. So we saw here that on the Halford and Brough podcast on Sportsnet 650, they went into a few things concerning the Canucks and the city of Vancouver. But things that we're going to focus on here, starting with Thatcher Demko, believing that the Canucks will practice on Wednesday and is still being told it's not a serious injury and is not his knee or his hips. Thankfully, he's eligible for a contract extension this summer, but his health will prevent him from getting term. His health will also play a big role in how they re-sign Kevin Lankinen, which on the Kevin Lankinen and Brock Boeser front, those contract talks are quiet. The first thing I want to look at here, Thatcher Demko, thankfully not a serious injury. In one of our last episodes, we talked about how Tocchet was saying that it's not a serious injury, it's not the knee, so we don't have to be concerned there. However, this is the Vancouver Canucks, where we have had a history of being told one thing and then it actually being another, especially when concerning Thatcher Demko and downplaying his injuries from being how serious that they are. Hopefully, it still is the case here where it's not a serious injury, it's not the knees, it's not the hips, which have been bothering him for a very long time, as has been well documented, not only on this channel, but also throughout the NHL airwaves, as Thatcher Demko is a major topic of conversation throughout the past season and a half. Thankfully, it does seem like he will be back to action when the Canucks do return from the Four Nations face-off break, and seeing that his health is affecting the contract, as well as just not only his term, but also with Kevin Lankinen. That is huge for Vancouver to monitor going forward, because now Thatcher Demko almost feels like he's playing for his job. This was a guy who was a Vezina finalist last year and is now getting almost shown up by his backup goalie in Kevin Lankinen, who has just been absolutely stellar and isn't even getting paid $1 million to play for us this season. So yes, Kevin Lankinen, he's going to warrant a big price tag, though so will Thatcher Demko, and the Canucks are going to have to do a lot to make that happen, it would seem, especially with the Brock Boeser stuff. Going to get into that in a second, but while still focusing on Demko and Lankinen as well. Lankinen, he's been lights out this season. How he played against Toronto, fantastic. How he's played this entire season has just been lights out. So it is an interesting competition here, where coming into the season, we thought the competition was between Lankinen and Shelovs for the backup spot, and Lankinen blew him out of the water. Now the conversation has almost shifted to, do the Vancouver Canucks either move on from Thatcher Demko and keep Lankinen as a starter, or do you extend both of them to a long-term deal? Because yes, as great as Thatcher Demko is, he is very, very injury prone and is a band-aid at this point. And if you have Kevin Lankinen as not only just a backup guy, but as a 1B goaltender who really could be a 1A on any other team, that is a valuable two-headed monster to have for the Vancouver Canucks, where we saw it last year, where our Casey DeSmith as our backup, he was asked to do too much because of Thatcher Demko's injuries, and look where that got us. We would have finished a lot higher. We were a much better team than our record showed at times. I know later on in the season it wasn't, but with some of those Casey DeSmith losses early in the season, we didn't look as strong as we could have been because we didn't have a great backup goaltender. And now we have Kevin Lankinen, who, like I said, he's not just a backup goaltender for us. This is a guy who could be a number one goalie on any other team, and we have him as our 1B. Thatcher Demko, we haven't had to use him as much this season, I know, with the injuries as well, and they've been playing it safe with that, and Kevin Lankinen has allowed us to play it safe and can continue to allow us to play it safe when it comes to Thatcher Demko. The hardest thing here is that Demko's price tag and what he's going to warrant. If the Canucks aren't willing to pay that because of his injury history, another team probably will, one that is in a must-win now situation or is just desperate to find a number one goalie, and they might try and poach Kevin Lankinen as a result. So Vancouver is going to have to do a lot to make sure they can keep both these guys locked down. And as far as the Brock Boeser stuff is concerned, yes, the contract talks have been very quiet with that, and I don't think that they will stay quiet for much longer, because Brock Boeser, I've said it once and I'll say it again, he is one of the most valuable player, if not the most valuable player outside of Quinn Hughes that we have on this team. He's the most clutch player that we have. Anytime we need a score now goal or need to spark a comeback, he's that guy. Does he score as much as Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson? No. Is he going to be, are his goals more impactful than those guys? Absolutely, because of when they happen. Everyone knows about the Nashville game last year and just what Boeser has been able to do, not only in the past, but also this season. It's been a bit of a quieter season for him, but he has still been playing at a fairly high level. Yes, he's going to warrant a big price tag. The Canucks moving on from JT Miller might have that contract replace it, where Boeser is going to warrant about an $8 million or $7.5 million price tag. Moving on from JT Miller, you can almost swap that in there and have someone more reliable and that isn't a locker room cancer like it seemed like JT Miller was. I know that whole situation is behind us, but I had to bring it up just because the size of the contract that they offloaded with that does give them the space to eventually sign Brock Boeser, especially if they're able to clear up even more space with moving on from Carson Soucy or some other guys that'll clear up a bit more space to make that happen and Kevin Lankinen happen. I know there's a lot of big signings that are going to be coming the Canucks' way this season, but I think definitely Lankinen and Boeser are at the top of those lists, and then you can move down the list of the other ones. I know we talked about how Marcus Pettersson got extended, and some of the other guys. Victor Mancini is somebody that we might be extending as well. Mark's going to be covering a video on that coming up as well, so stay tuned for that. But what do you guys think of all this with the Thatcher Demko and Kevin Lankinen stuff? If we had to choose between one of the two, this is an interesting question I want to ask you guys. If we had to choose between Kevin Lankinen and Thatcher Demko, who are you taking for next season and why? Let us know down in the comments below, but that's going to take us into our second topic of the day, which is progressing prospects. So we see here in the second snippet from the Halford and Brough podcast that they focused on Tom Willander and Jonathan Lekkerimäki. Starting with Tom Willander, the decision for him to sign is a few weeks away. It's coming up. I know Canucks fans are very eager for that to happen. Don't discount him getting time in the AHL. Have scouts telling Rick Dhaliwal that Willander won't generate a ton of offense, but is a great skater and has a high competitive level. Hates to lose, which is what you want out of a competitor. Straight A student committed to his education. Everything Dhaliwal hears about him is positive. And the one that I love here, obviously everyone knows what I'm probably going to go on, is the hates to lose thing. This is what I loved about JT Miller. I know, like we said, with how that went, but the thing I loved about JT Miller is he embodies the true measure of competitor. You know who else embodies that? Quinn Hughes. And you know who else is seemingly embodying that? Tom Willander. Because the true measure of competitor, you have to hate to lose more than you love to win. And that is what you want in a player. Tom Willander has that as well as with his high hockey IQ and his education at Boston University. This is boding so well for the Canucks to have that reliable D-man. Now, don't discount him getting time in the AHL. We all would see that coming, where him to get some experience in Abbotsford, to get his legs underneath him before he makes that jump to the Vancouver Canucks roster, if not this season, definitely next season for a few games. And then on Jonathan Lekkerimäki as well. He weighs only 170 pounds, but will be a big summer for him. 2 summers ago, he worked really hard to get himself in shape. But the big thing here is teams are asking for Lekkerimäki and Willander in trade talks. And what do I have to say to those teams? Absolutely not. Get out of here. We are not giving up these two guys for anything you guys have to offer. I know that there's probably going to be some lucrative offers out there that Vancouver will get that would be decent compensation for these guys. But the thing with these guys is Vancouver knows the potential these guys show. They see it. We have seen it also with Jonathan Lekkerimäki in the brief stint he had with the NHL this season with the Canucks, and what he's been doing in Abbotsford this season has been fantastic. He's really been proving to be our top prospect. And why would we want to move on from that when it seems like, I know with a lot of the rumors going out right now, seems like we're just chopping off superstars like they're just dime a dozen almost, shipping out JT Miller. Elias Pettersson was on the trade block. Thankfully, he's off of it now. Brock Boeser, Quinn Hughes, they said is on the trade block or would be gone if they were to go into rebuild. So if we have guys where we could lose our core four, why would we want to give up our potential future core superstars of this team? And I definitely would say that with confidence in Lekkerimäki and Willander. I think if we were to look at the Canucks in 5 years from now, if they were to stay on the team, these guys will undoubtedly be the future franchise stars of this team if they stay with this team for their entire careers or for at least the first few years of their NHL careers. I don't think that's a far stretch to say, just because looking at what they've done in the minor leagues, in the NCAA, in the world stage, in the SHL, and in the AHL, these guys have been absolute dogs within this Vancouver Canucks system and in the Abbotsford system. So how will that translate to the NHL? Still remains yet to be seen. However, with Willander coming in on the contract talks coming in soon where he can sign in the very coming weeks, that's something Vancouver fans are very eager to see. And yes, his AHL stint will be very nice to see how he gets that just maturity back underneath him and seeing how he adapts to this Manny Malhotra system and what that'll mean for transitioning into the Rick Tocchet system in the NHL. I know this is something that Mark and I have been very excited to see. We've been talking about it a lot on this show about when we're going to see these guys permanently on this Vancouver Canucks roster, what that'll mean for the future of this team, and how these guys will be the two pieces for the Canucks moving forward, and why, as much as teams want to take them from us and want to try and probably lowball us for some of our superstars, absolutely not. We have to not listen to any of those offers. I know I'm speaking as if I'm Patrik Allvin myself, but I'm just saying this as a passionate Canucks fan that if we want to have a shot at maintaining a future, I know there's a lot of things that are uncertain about the future, but one thing we know is that we have very hot commodities with these two golden geese within our farm system. So if we can continue to just nurture these guys, help them grow their careers within this system, building them up as a true Vancouver Canuck where they can stay here for their entire careers and be the future of this franchise, I think that is why you cannot afford to move on from these guys and why they need to stay here. No matter what offers you guys are getting, what superstars teams are offering, you guys have not only a win now mentality. I understand that you want to keep that Stanley Cup window open, but this is also a team that doesn't want to pigeonhole themselves in massive superstar contracts when we could have superstars waiting in the wings right here that we could have on cheap rookie contracts, and those contracts grow, and potentially with this team as the salary cap will increase and things like that, there's a lot more freedom that the Canucks have rather than pigeonholing themselves in 1-year rental contracts or 1-year rental or 2-year rental contracts that eventually grow into massive contracts that they can't afford to pay and have to just auction off these draft prospects and draft picks like they're candy. That's something the Canucks probably don't want to have to do, and it's something fans won't want to have to do. But what do you guys think on not only the Canucks getting trade offers for Willander and Lekkerimaki, but as them as a whole? When do you guys think we're going to see them permanently transition to this NHL roster, and when and how many goals do you think they will score in their first official rookie season with the Canucks? Let us know what you guys have to say down in the comments. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell icon so you don't miss any of the updates. Mark's going to have a video for you guys coming out either later tonight or tomorrow morning, so you won't want to miss that. So for all things Canucks, stay tuned to Canucks Digest. But with that, I've been your host, Griffen. Take care.